Hi there! In this video, I'd really love to share with you my observations and thoughts around neurodiversity and inclusion within the workplace. I'm Nikki Butler, also known as the Autistic Joyologist, and I was diagnosed autistic and ADHD in my mid-40s, and I'm an entrepreneur and founder now. But prior to that, I'd spent over a decade and a half in corporate environments before my diagnosis, and it was incredibly difficult and challenging. And I do wonder whether if I had known and if I had asked for support and accommodations, whether those would have actually been met. And that's something that has really piqued my interest recently. I might not still be in the corporate environment, but many of my clients are, and it's certainly something that I am keen to understand because I think it's so important that we have a more inclusive and supported environment to work in. It brings so many amazing skills and strengths to an organisation, but we want to be able to work in a way that feels safe and comfortable for us. Now, I was looking through the Neurodiversity Index report that was recently released. Now, if you're not aware of that, it's only in its second year, but it's with the City and Guilds, and Professor Amanda Kirby has been involved in this, and she's somebody that I hugely respect in this space. Now, the report results have just been released, and there are some really amazing statistics to look at in terms of the amount of organisations that are putting specific training in place for their employees, that they have processes in place to support recruitment, that are doing the things that are needed to supposedly, and I'll explain why I use that word in a minute, but supposedly support their workers. Now, a statistic for me that stuck out more than anything else wasn't the incremental improvements in the support and the training that had been put in place or the recruitment process. It was around the fact that the number for those that had disclosed their neurodivergence to their employer and had an okay to good experience had dropped from 58% to 42%. So the reason that rings such a big alarm bell for me is if we're doing all the right things in terms of organisations, we have legislation in place to help support, to ensure we have inclusivity. If we have organisations that are putting the right infrastructure and training in place to support their workers, why then is the statistic around the positive response or lack of, why are employees that are disclosing their neurodivergence receiving a lower percentage for an okay to good experience? For me, that raised an alarm bell around a smoke screen. So our organisations and from a legislation point of view, are we saying all the right things but not doing the right things in a way that actually benefits the people they're designed to benefit? And then I went on to look at the Buckland Review. So as you can see, I like to go down that rabbit hole of research. But the Buckland Review is something that's going through government, and it's looking at improving the workplace experiences and support for autistic employees. Now, when I looked at that, what immediately struck me was the concern from autistic people involved in this project that everybody felt as if they were misunderstood, or there were stigmas and misconceptions around what the lived experiences for autistic people really are. But what was even more alarming, and this is in the Buckland Review, was a link to some research by the Management Institute that is either 2020 or 2022, that the number of managers, so recruiting managers and leaders, that would not employ somebody that was disabled was 50%. So that's with legislation in place to ensure equality and remove discrimination. That's with workplace infrastructures that are supposed to make it an inclusive environment. And then some of the research went on to show that the biggest concerns are around employees who are ADHD. I'm both autistic and ADHD. And so then how do we marry this up? How do we create a better understanding and working environment for neurodivergent employees, if we've got legislation in place, if we have training and organisational processes that are designed to help those employees, but that the leaders and managers still have reservations around recruiting employees with disabilities. And this is where I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. This is where, for me, I am really concerned about whether or not the right things are being done, whether or not there's, there is such a need to break down the misconceptions or the stigmas and the stereotypes. But we need to look at how we're doing that. And then to take that a step further, I've had a number of conversations with people that are neurotypical, so not autistic or ADHD, have no other neurodivergence, that have been given training on neurodiversity within their working environments. And their feedback has been varied, but ranged from, we learnt about autistic people and this is what we were told, which was almost a list of stereotypical traits. And also talking about, now we get to have ADHD training, which for me is bonkers, because I don't see personally the benefit of creating training that lists stereotypes without any form of asking the individual employees what support they might need. And then there's also a challenge around, if you're asking employees to identify the neurodivergence and ask for the support, and then you're telling the teams, is that what the employee wants? Does the employee want their colleagues to know? Because to me, that feels like that creates a division, not inclusivity. So being segregated and treated differently, not necessarily by choice. These things are all spinning in my head, and it's so completely complex, because for me, neurodiversity is about diversity. It's about having people with different skill sets, different abilities that add value in different ways. And our skills are all about our environment and context. And I've talked about this before. You wouldn't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. So everybody within an organisation has a skill set that adds value and is really beneficial in the right area. I'm just really trying to process whether what we are seeing and hearing is enough, is supporting employees in the right way, is creating more inclusion, or is it division, and whether it's a smokescreen, whether or not these statistics are great, that more companies are adapting their processes and providing training. There's something fundamentally wrong if the number of employees that are disclosing their neurodivergence to their employer but are receiving an okay to positive or to good response is declining. Like how do those two blend well together? I would really love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't have all of the answers, but I'm certainly giving a great deal of thought to what could work, where could we see improvements, how could we work towards supporting each other without the need for division. So if you've got any thoughts on this, feel free to reach out, comment on the video, reach out to me on socials, drop me an email on hello@autisticjoyologist.co.uk. Maybe we can figure some of this stuff out together. Maybe we can start to think about what would be really beneficial and really bring us together so that we can thrive, because in the right environment, we absolutely have an abundance of value to add. Can't wait to hear from you, and have a great day.